I I got this catch line actually from one of the key IT vendors in APAC region called Atlassian, who are known for their Jira tool. So they say to look back in the past to define the future. So I really like that, and that's what I give the subject. From sorry. All right. Okay. All good. So we will be talking about retrospectives today, and this topic is also part of our Agile project and delivery management course that we are offering from Agile Waters. It's a leading flagship certification from IC Agile, from the world of IC Agile. So let's begin. So it's part of the another key subtopic called manage the system, empower the team. And under that, we'll be looking at subtopic on structuring for rapid feedback. As we know that when we talk about Agile, we often talk about the three pillars of empiricism: inspect, adapt, and transparency. So inspect and adapt allows the teams to pause, take a pause, reflect on how did they do in the recent last iteration, last 2 weeks, and then how they can adapt to improve. So a retrospective lend various methods, techniques, and opportunities for the teams to precisely do this, to inspect themselves, how they have been doing the last 2 weeks, the last iteration, or it could be at any regular interval. For a large project, it could be on monthly basis, quarterly basis. If they are following a Kanban based methodology, they can decide to choose any particular interval when they think that they can come together and they can reflect, inspect how they've been working, and if they want to change for improvement. So I think all of you already know me, have heard me before on these webinars. So it's pretty much the same profile. Nothing much has changed in the last 6 months. So when we talk about Agile retrospective, I'll also like to bring to your attention again the Agile principles, the 12 principles, and particularly the 12th principle, the last one, where it says that at regular intervals the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Now this is very radical in nature, and the way it was radical 2 decades ago, I think in today's times, with so much advancement in terms of processes, techniques, and technology, I think still this remains a big challenge. How to tune and adjust behavior. So that's important. So when we talk about tunes and adjust its behavior, it is in many ways it is referring to team dynamics. In many ways it is referring to people, and in many ways it refers to how the people work together as a team, as one unit, as one team. So this principle is very well incorporated, in form of Agile retrospective meeting, which we will be covering today. So first of all, let us understand what essentially is meant by retrospective. Retrospective dictionary meaning, if you look up, it says that okay, fine, you would like to reflect as the way you are looking yourself in the mirror, or you are doing introspection. You would like to see the way the things have unfolded in the recent past. What were the causes? You like to ponder over that. You like to contemplate. You like to analyze, and then take appropriate actions for improving. So in the terms of Agile retrospective, also called as synonymously as a project or sprint retrospective, the meeting in which team assess its work processes and brainstorm for improvements. This meeting actually happens during the life of the project and often occurs every 2 weeks. This is based on the assumption that your iteration is 2 weeks duration. Earlier teams used to run 3 weeks and 4 weeks iteration, but more or less nowadays, I think everyone is following a 2-week iteration. So what we do in retrospective, the unit, as we call the Scrum team, the Agile team, they come together at the end of their most recently completed iteration to discuss how they have worked together. So they will precisely look at three things: what has gone well, what has not gone well or needs improvement, and there's still something that they have not been able to figure out. It's kind of a puzzle to them, and what lessons they can learn. So in this process, the team inspects and adapts itself. So there's a lot of value in doing a retrospective. One would ask question that why the team needs to do a retrospective. What's the value of doing a retrospective? So got handled to this very famous quote from a very eminent scientist. What Einstein is trying to say here is, sorry, what Einstein is trying to say here is, if you continue to do the same things repeatedly over and over again, and you expect different results, that's nothing but kind of madness or insanity. So then why? So he also did not use the word explicitly retrospective, but then he was trying to praise the same. So retrospective, the value is that it gives a chance to your team to inspect and reflect on how it is working. And teams are at a various stage of their performance, output, productivity, the quality of the output, the way they are working together as a team. There could be some issues, underlying issues, and the team is still puzzled. They have not got a time to reflect. They were in this continuous motion of sprinting that they never got a chance to look back, to take a pause and look back and see how they have been doing together as a team. So this is a great opportunity to engage in continuous improvement. This is the key aspect of a agile organization, agile teams. And in the process of a continuous improvement, try to find out the ways how they can um, remove some of the impediments or blockers or some of the inefficiencies. Either it could be due to processes, or it could be due to tools, or it could be because of the way they are working together. Right now, this is such an important meeting, and that's where the value is in getting the best out of this meeting, which will make the team much more better in terms of its performance, overall team health. The people really enjoy working together as a. And then because of all these improvements, there are impact you can see later down the stream in terms of better quality of product, higher customer satisfaction, and so on and so forth. So then we know there's a lot of value in doing retrospective. Then why is retrospective meeting important? Every team that works together, they start off on premise of existing organizational process assets in terms of practices, tools, technology, various infrastructure services that they all use. Now, in the process of delivering value for the customer in form of features of product or services, they they need to identify whether these practices are really enablers. That is to say that these are helping them become more efficient and effective. So they have to really cull those practices which are successful, and it will separate the wheat from the chaff, those practices which are not really successful, which are not helping them get the desired results or outcomes. So then they need to really inspect and see which of these practices are really good. Are our code reviews effective? Are our Git repository check-in policies are effective? So on and so forth. Then you have to reflect on the past to improve the future. Unless you get a chance to inspect or reflect on how we have done, you will not have any idea how you can improve. Sure. And how you can do that, you have to make an actionable plan. So this has been actionable learning as well, along with the steps for improvement. You also have to focus on learning. That's where having an actionable plan for improving the way the team works together is important. More often than not, in my experience, what I've seen is that most of the issues are related to team dynamics, false agreements between the team members, their lack of ability to work together, gel with each other as a team, have a good sense of collaboration among themselves. Apart from that, team dynamics, then often they stick around with inefficient processes. They are not really using state-of-the-art tools. They have not yet figured out the benefits of automation and so on and so forth. So once they get together in a very psychologically safe environment, that's where they need to have these discussions to identify what is really hampering their efficiency or productivity. So that's why I've highlighted here one of the key things that enables actionable team learning. This is the most important aspect of a retrospective. It also fosters open culture, and fostering open culture leads to a higher degree of trust and cooperation amongst the team members. And also, let me tell you that retrospect retrospective meeting, if you look at its underlying philosophy and principle, it supports and live other agile principles, all the agile principles that we have in Agile Manifesto. And it also fosters team accountability. But if you look around yourself, even in your experience, you would have noticed that how often we have seen really teams doing very effective retrospective meeting, which is very engaging, which is very fruitful. There are a lot of takeaways, and more often than not, I have seen that this more or less done like a chore. It's like kind of a routine task, and team members, as you can see in the picture, yes, are lacking interest. They are disengaged. They are not really into the discussion. And there are other manifests that we see when we talk about team dynamics. Team members aren't honest and trustworthy because they fear that they would bring up the issues in the open. It might create further problems. It may further widen the rift amongst the team members. So they fail to bring up the real issues and admit failures. And reason for this because the environment isn't safe enough, or people are habitually playing game. They're pointing fingers. And sometimes I've seen some team members actually see retrospective as an opportunity to throw the people under the bus or use this as an opportunity for finger pointing. Often we have seen that sprint after sprint or retrospective after retrospective, team members get into boredom because they see no action coming out from the retrospective, even though they may have identified action, but there's a very low sense of accountability or responsibility. They have no idea that who is performing, who is taking any responsibility or action for the action items that were drawn up in the last retrospective. So we're going to cover these, some of these anti-agile patterns or anti-retrospective patterns in the next few slides. And eventually what happens that the team actually kind of drifts away from the main course, and then the other manifests, leading to load or lack of team accountability, and this is more of a kind of a routine or boredom. What they will do is they will come to the meeting, just answer 3 questions: what went well, what didn't went well, and what is that is still puzzling us. They'll finish their the responsibility, and then they go back to their workplaces. And then, as you can see here, there's no value generated in this meeting. It's a kind of a waste, absolute waste. So then the Scrum Master or the iteration manager or the leaders, they have to ensure that how we can make this meeting interesting. When we say interesting, it is also more to do with how we can make it engaging for all. When we say engaging, it means to say that every team member is engaged, has something to offer in the meeting in form of inputs, in form of suggestions and recommendations. And they also are keen to take away as a team. So they need to have a sense of a team when they come to this meeting, that we as a team, team A or team B, we are having this positive intent of making improvement. And they really look forward to discuss some of the vexing issues that have been troubling them, and they have not been able to find any answers. Right? So how we can make it interesting, show up. When I say positive intent, is that you really mean it, and your actions, the way your demonstration of your behaviors will tell the team that you are showing and you're acting in positive faith, and that's where they will make out that yes, we have a positive intent. So often I've seen that if your facilitation is not good, the leader of the team who facilitates the meeting, either the Scrum Master or any other team member, you change it. What I have done in order to bring that kind of zing factor or the excitement in this meeting is to rotate the facilitation amongst team members. And every time we do this, we see that the facilitator, the new person who comes in, takes the responsibility of running this meeting, facilitating this meeting, brings in new perspective, new ideas, or sometimes new way of conducting it. So that really keeps excitement on, and people come and they are very engaged throughout the meeting. Often I have seen that these meetings are more often they're not used for picking up problems, right? Talking about issues, talking about failures, talking about bugs and all those things that really does not, make anyone happy. So what we also have to ensure that you acknowledge the wins and the successes, and also acknowledge the work done by everyone and do it profusely. Be as generous as possible. After all, it's all about people, and people do feel motivated when they feel appreciated, especially in front of everyone in the public forum. So that will also remove their inhibitions and motivate them to speak, express themselves about the issues that they have been facing. And what they will do, they will not attribute it to their fellow team members. They'll attribute it to inefficient processes, inadequate tools, or lack of understanding and awareness. So that's why it's very important to keep up the high levels of engagement by making this meeting interesting. What I have also often done is, sometimes we start this with an icebreaker. So when we start the meeting, we start with the open-ended questions. Like, for example, before we go into the nitty-gritties of this retrospective, let us first ask everyone how they're feeling today, or how were their impression about this last iteration. And instead of giving them an open-ended question, we like to ask them, in just one word you describe, right? Just one word you describe how has been your experience in the last iteration. So people, they will look at, okay, I was happy. Sorry, I had an unplanned leave. First 2 days of the iteration, though, that kind of, got me on a very slow start, but then later I was able to catch up. So what happened that when everyone starts off with this icebreaker, you can see that people removing their inhibitions, people settling down, and people having their attention focus. So the facilitator has everybody's attention by way of this icebreaker. So I would also recommend that if you have the opportunity of conducting or facilitating the retrospective meeting, please always start with some kind of an icebreaker, right? Like this. Set the stage, as we say. There are 5 stages for retrospective, we'll see later. And this is very important to first have people really settle down, get their attention. Whatever anxieties that they're coming into this meeting, it's all been addressed with this icebreaker question. Any points so far? Anyone who would like to have any kind of sharing their experience from your project experiences of conducting or festival perspective? Please feel free.
Any best question or icebreaker thing that you have asked? Any feedback on that?
Sorry, Vijay, is there a question for me?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you please repeat? Come again. What was the question?
So you might have asked a few interesting questions right at the start to make it an icebreaker kind of. Any suggestions on that's few?
Yeah. Sure, that's a good question. Yeah. So it may not be necessarily question is specific to the last iteration. Let's say Scrum Master or a facilitator would like to ask, how was his last iteration? And that may or may not, generate the responses. Again, it would be, some people may say it was good, some people simply nod their head and all that. What you can do is, you can say, if a fairy has to come down in this room right now and grant you one wish, what is that one wish would be? What would you like to do? Now that can generate very exciting, interesting responses. So in one of the meeting, when I asked this question, if a fairy had to grant you a wish today, what that one wish would be? So one of the developer said that I wish that our customer would buy this product, because in the particular project we were having a lot of customer issues. And then this person says that what we can do to make our customers happy, and say, if I had this wish, I would use this magic wand and ensure that our customers are happy and they really buy this product. So something like that. So that sets the tone, and other people start thinking, they become very creative in their response and answer. If I had one wish, I would like to automate everything, so that we have everything automated in our system. Something like that. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
There are other ways, other like some kind of a games, but that runs the risk of taking away the valuable time. Let's say you time box this iteration, this retrospective meeting, but let's say for 45 minutes to 1 hour. For a 2 week of iteration, I don't think that anyone need to spend more than 60 minutes on their retrospective meeting. And again, this retrospective meeting is, is categorized into different phases, right? I will be talking about that in upcoming slides. But icebreaker can be short one, quick one, less than like 5 minutes. And that's the purpose of the icebreaker is to loosen up everything. People may come with some hectic work from their desk. They would have come from a previous meeting, so they may be carrying those emotions, those feelings on their previous assignment or previous task, whatever that they're doing. Now we want everyone's focus and attention. So how we can do that? We just have to loosen up themselves, bring them that into a relaxed state of mind where they can be, very creative and that they'll open up and express themselves. And again, we have to, look at, it's like something like, how far our memory goes. If I ask you, what did you eat yesterday? You will be very quick to answer. But if I ask you, what did you eat last Monday? You will be really, trying to recall from the deep recesses of your memory, from your brain. Actually, what did I really eat last Monday? I don't remember. So it's important that how we enable the teams to remember, how the sprint started, what were the early events in the sprint, then what happened during the course of the sprint or halfway through the sprint, and then finally how the sprint ended. It's like trying to recall a T20 match or a test match. In a T20 match, you can break the match into, first 5 overs, next 10 overs, and then last 5 overs, right? So you know that, okay, first 5 overs, how did the team perform? Next 10 overs, what was the strategy? And the last 5 overs, how did they play to win the game? Something like that. I think another important thing is to really acknowledge the wins and successes. Sometimes some sprints are very hard, and all of us, I'm sure, would have experienced that, there's always a rainy day when things really do not go the way we have anticipated. But nonetheless, we still have to acknowledge the wins and success, see the brighter side of everything. Right? But it doesn't mean that we, try to push the negative stuff under the carpet. But then we have to balance it with acknowledgement of, the all the positive aspects of the sprint. Individually, also acknowledging some team members have gone out their way to make things happen. So we have to really acknowledge that. That will again open up the people to share their experience. So moving forward, when we talk about retrospective, in my experience, I've come across many, and this is not a comprehensive list. I'm sure there would be a few more models and techniques in practice, and some more might be coming up, as through natural process of evolution and innovation. But these are the most common ones used. So the sailboat retrospective is again a popular technique. What teams here do is they try to identify the headwinds, which will push the boat in the direction of the goal, sprint goal. So the winds in the sky, they will act as the the tailwinds to say, they will propel the boat. Then we'll look at, some of those contributing factors like bright sunshine, which will, naturally propel, encourage the team to improve their productivity. But then they'll also focus on underlying risks which are not visible on the surface. So the rocks and the reefs, which can, be catastrophic for the team. They will not be able to achieve the sprint goal. And some of those anchors are synonyms for impediments and blockers. How it blocks the team from moving ahead. Sometimes it will really put, keep the team on the same spot with their no ability to move forward. A very standard template is this one: what went well, what did not really go well, what we would like to try next, or what is still puzzling us. So this is a very standard template being used. But again, this can be made even more creative. There are ways to find out, how through a very skillful facilitation, team can come up with the action plan for top 3 areas that they really like to improve, that will make things and the life better for them and also for the project team. And we also have start, stop, continue. So through this technique, the teams are able to identify some of those things are really working well for them. So we'll like to continue doing those things. Some of the things which are disabling them or not allowing them to achieve the desired efficiency or productivity. Like they would like to stop, like for example, too much overtime is not really helping, it's resulting in burnout, and still the quality is not up to the mark, so they like to stop, or they like to figure out how this can be stopped. And some of the things that they have not yet been able to figure out, like for example, start inviting, product owners to all the meetings, all the discussions where they have questions related to requirements or the user story. So some of these aspects are captured by the team, and then from them they will try to collate into specific categories, and then they do kind of dot voting and prioritize which areas need more attention, and they would like to focus on those areas. Another template we have seen is less of, more of, and apart from start doing, stop doing, they'll like to add like less of, more of, and keep doing. This is another way to categorize items in terms of what's really working well for the team. They like to continue doing that, or they like to have more of that. Like for example, doing peer code reviews is really helping identify the issues, before the code goes out for testing. So they like to have more of such things keep going, right? And regular meetings where the team, they come together to discuss all sorts of issues related to their user stories or requirements, or anything that is there that will help them achieve the sprint goals. They like to keep those things in place. So there's another way to categorize those items and then put them under respective columns. Another very interesting technique, which I also see in some of the project teams, some of the organizations uh, adopted, is this 4L. So 4L stands for liked, what did you like? And another L is for lacked, what did you lack? So it's another way to look at, for example, what did you like? So it could be another way to ask the question that, okay, what is really working well? What worked well in this sprint for you? And this will become more subjective in nature. So the question is more in terms of your feeling. So what did you really like? So it may come out like subjective. Okay, I really like the way the testing was being done. Some team member will express their feelings like that. So now what the facilitator has to ensure that the subjective feedback or inputs are converted into objective. So it has to be backed by data and evidence. For example, when you say that you like this way of review better, but then did this review help identify all the underlying issues? How many lines of code were reviewed, or how many feature files were reviewed, and so on and so forth. So another two L are, one is for learn, what did you learn, and long for. So what did you long for? Long for is something wishing. I wish that this was there, but we don't have that right now. So then the team can decide, okay, is this something that everyone agrees, and this is really going to help have a big impact? Then yeah, we can have an action plan to bring this. It could be part of a tool, it could be part of a practice, or it could be part of any training or upskilling or anything that the team wish that we had this. Now for these all of these techniques to work, what is most important thing here is that these kind of inputs need to come from the team members and from everyone. This is where the role of a facilitator is paramount. It's very important. This one is, I have not seen this much widely used, but then when I was doing research, I found this very interesting. So this comes very handy and useful in those situations where the facilitator, by whatever means, is still not getting enough verb inputs for the team members, either of the in any of these techniques. So what this technique is about, okay, paint me a picture. So this means, paint me a picture. So if someone is not able to express in words their feelings, their emotions, they can draw it. They can draw it, and they can tell whether they are feeling jubilant, they are feeling excited, they had their aha moments, or they had their pains. They were like kind of tormented in the sprint. So what are emotions, emoticons they can come up with? It will tell the story that how did this person feel during this last week in iteration. Similar thing, you can also put it in this way, called mad, sad, and glad. It's another very widely used template. So mad is something that really made things crazy for team members. The servers were down, and the product owner was not available, and it really delayed the story beyond its limit. So it could be things which are really gone crazy. Sad is something, some form of a disappointment. team not able to achieve their story points or not able to fulfill the acceptance criteria due to whatever reasons. And then the other side of the coin in terms of positives, team had a successful sprint. They were able to showcase, demonstrate, and they received a very good feedback from the stakeholders. So those things would come under the plan. Now, this is not a very comprehensive list. I'm sure there could be other such templates. You can always research more and more and find out the main purpose of any of these. If you look at these techniques, the underlying principle of any technique method is still the same: inspect and adapt, and then come up with an action plan. That's the whole purpose of a retrospective. If you do not have these principle behind this technique, then I think you're not able to achieve the goal of continuous improvement, which is at the core, the heart of any agile methodology. So far, good. Anyone has any questions? Anything they'd like to share from your experience?
So what do you think about lunch in a retrospective? It's too elaborate, right? Maybe you don't have to do it after every iteration.
Working lunch during the retrospective, you are saying, right?
Yeah. Like whiteboard session, because
Yes.
yeah, like you said, it's become so monotonous, like it's happening in our company. Everybody just want to finish it off, like, and so, and plus now this remote thing is also not helping too much. You don't have face-to-face thing, so yeah, maybe once in a
good
way.
question. Very interesting question. Yeah. So because of the way the teams are distributed, right? If it is co-located, it can still happen if you're co-located. But nonetheless, I would say that try to keep a dedicated time for the meeting where you can engage everyone. See, if you have working lunch, this meeting lunch is it's to do with eating, and it's to do with another physical activity. Plus, eating is also related to your feelings and emotions, right? So it will be distraction, right? And yes, we have had those brownie back sessions and all that, where the purpose is different. I would still say that you can have it along with your working lunch, or whatever time of the day it is, whether it's a quickie you would like to have along with the coffee mug, tea mug, and all that. Margaret, the idea is that you need to have very skillful facilitation. How we can keep everyone's engaged. I can share from my experience that often it would happen that due to constraints, like when we're calling everyone, and sometimes we would invite other stakeholders like product owners and other SMEs to these meetings, so that they take away, if like in a particular sprint, they had a role to play, and they would like to know whether what they contributed had any impact or benefit for the team. So when you have got so many people there, it's very difficult to find a common time on calendar. So it will result into a time when people are eating their lunch and all that. Despite that, I think we can still have a. That's what I'm going to talk about next slide. You just hold on to your same question, Margaret. In my experience, what I've seen is that if you have a good facilitation in place, you can still have those people engaged, and killing and removing monotony from this meeting is the number one challenge. Even today, retrospectives are seen as kind of a drudgery by many people. Moment they hear the word retrospective, oh my God, that's that's their first expression. Not again, not again. That's what people would say. But we really have to make it more fun, and I would say the element of fun is really required. And there would be some people who skeptic would think that, okay, this is a serious business. How can you have a fun mix with this serious business? I said, yes, why not?
Yeah.
Through this fun, we're going to bring about seriousness.
You have to loosen up,
Yes. If you have to talk about serious issues, how can you talk about serious issues when people are already really worked up? If you loosen them up, if you give them that space where they can talk about it freely, that's where the real truth will come out.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to come from them. Many of them come, they don't open their mouths.
Yeah.
Unless you put them on the spot, and then they will give you one word or something.
And it is a multiplier effect, right? You just need one person to speak up, and you will see the effect of it, that others who are like silent, when they start speaking up.
Yeah.
So we have to ask question, when I say icebreaker, right? So when we ask people, that if I had to give you this wish, what would that be, and all that, those kind of questions will bring out their current state. So when you respond to such questions, you respond from a current emotional state, how you're feeling. If you ask this question today and you are already feeling angry or anguished or sad or disappointed, you would wish that, okay, these things really improve for me. So sometimes I've seen team members say, I wish that, I had a better Scrum Master. Those kind of response also have come.
Thank you.
It tells a story. Yeah, it tells a story. People, and when they've expressed, that, but then the facilitator has to ensure that this does not become a kind of a arena where you're fighting. It's not a bullfight. We are here to not throw the people under the bus. Okay, fine. You had a Scrum Master, but then you have to now elaborate. What is it that you don't like about Scrum Master? Right? Did you not get any support? Did you have expectation that the Scrum Master is not able to fulfill, or anything that you think? Then you have to express that, right? So this can come out if you have a facilitation in place. Now this can itself be a big topic. Skillful facilitation comes hard. It comes to experience and it comes through other learnings and all. Right?
But you said that facilitator is the team member, right? You're not getting
Team
outside
member.
facilitator.
You can get, this is again a question which I often get, even myself, I had this question that in order to keep the things discreet, sometimes we believe that getting an outsider sometimes help, right? And we have done that, we have tried that, and it has worked. Let's say because of the team dynamics, even having high degree of trust, all the Scrum Masters and other members, people are not willing to open up and express. But if you get a neutral person, right, that helps, Margaret. We have tried that option now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but
it's as Vijay, when we started talking before we went into this presentation, I know that it's a journey. It's a very progressive evolution. It doesn't come by in 1, 2, or 3 sprints in life. The teams have to stick together. It takes some time to understand each other, and then that's where the Scrum Master as a coach and a facilitator is very important. Have those kind of skills in your leaders. Get those kind of output or those inputs, from your teams in these kind of meetings. This meeting is very, very important. Yeah, Casey, would like to say something?
Yes. So what in my accounts people suggest and we started doing is, we go ahead in the interest of time, and as most people are not contributing their views, and we go ahead with getting their views through updating their comments, getting it onto conference page. After getting it onto the conference page, we have the same retro meeting over there with the reduced time of 15 minutes or 20 minutes.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So yeah, that's a very good. Thanks, Casey. So whether it's a Confluence or Microsoft Azure DevOps, so we create this. We create this place.
Even Excel sheet also would
Excel sheet, yeah, on a SharePoint or wherever. So what we do is, let's say if we have a retrospective tomorrow, or let's say on Monday. So by Friday or Thursday, we ensure that this page is created, and we send out notification to team members that be ready for the retrospective. If you have any early inputs, please start providing your inputs. And I think it has a cascading effect. It has a multiplier effect. So moment one person put the input, and this input is kind of a very interesting hot topic. You can see by the time everyone's in meeting on Monday, the sheet is full with all the inputs from everyone. It works.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful point. Brilliant. So let's move ahead.
Here, one more thing, please. I would like to know why the need for having icebreaker session during retro.
Okay, why the need, right? Yeah.
Because everybody is familiar, and it is halfway through the sprint or release or something like that, and most of the people are there for more than 6 months minimum, and everybody is known one-on-one. And on top of it, does it not kill their time?
Yeah.
It's sort of putting people in the mood, right? Like I mentioned, I'm come for this heavy testing that I did.
In the mood is get to know about the projects. Where are we and how do we improve?
Yeah. So what Casey you're saying is, okay, we already know where we are. We already know what's the state of the union. Why we need to again just for the sake of doing it and all that. But again, here, if you do it like a chore, icebreaker, people will still be nodding. So I think what the purpose of the icebreaker is to really get the people out of their current emotional state, and we really want to engage their attention. Now, engaging attention can be done in many ways. I am not saying that you do icebreaker. You can do any other thing that will really get engaged. Because I'll tell you, when you are, let's say, you watch a movie, right? And now five of your friends have watched a movie, and now you are getting into a discussion room. You would like to discuss this movie that you have watched. It was a very interesting movie. There were high stakes movie, and a lot of things are also there. Now, how we will ensure that all the five of you, your friends, are in that real frame of mind to express, to tell how did the movie. No, not all five people are going to have the same opinion. Some will say this was a great movie. Some will say it was a kind of was a shit movie, and then I'm not going to recommend this to my other. So we need to somehow get them into that frame of mind where they are ready to express and give their opinions about, okay, how was this, which actor, how was the storyline, how was the plot, how was the background music, and all that. Right? Some of them will come very spontaneous because, as you said, right, we already seen this movie, why we need to have. But then you have that, what are the movies, which how this movie was like compared to other. So I'm not saying that icebreaker have this kind. You can have any other way of technique to get people into that frame of mind where they are already having engagement. Otherwise, with the current state that they are in, they will simply come, provide their input, and then they go out of the meeting. Let me tell you that. So it will not have that kind of a value coming. What's the value of this? As a team, did we have a shared understanding? Let's say one person says, okay, fine, now the third is the server broader that really blocked me my story. Now, is this the single individual story of that team member only for a impact, isolated impact for him, or it had impact across the team? Now, moment this person says this story, this input, right? Then other two people, yes, because of this, my testing also got blocked. I had to rearrange my testing to accommodate this at a later point. Now, this is resulting in a shared understanding. This is very, very important. As a team, we have to have a shared understanding of where we were, how did we perform as a team through our individual efforts. Again, at the end of it is about team accountability, right? So if everyone feels that this is not required, I would not say that press for that. Don't do it. If people say no, I think this retrospect is going to be high stake retrospect. Let's not do icebreaker. Good. If everybody agrees, straight away go jump into the swimming pool. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, yeah. If
Go
you
ahead.
allow me, I would like to share something on this.
Go ahead.
So very specific to Casey's question. So there's a very famous book by somebody from Harley Davidson, and it's one of the management case studies. And Harley Davidson is known for running meetings very effectively. And then they say that majority of the outcomes or majority of the decision that we take is coming out of those meetings. What do they do in those meetings? And that I have also started following in all my workshops in the companies that I'm actually working with. So when you actually go into meeting, especially the first meeting or any meeting that is nothing to do with what was happening earlier or the same tempo. If you want to change the tempo, what they do is early Harley Davidson case study is the facilitator asks everyone, how was the day today? Did you have any fight or something like that? Would you like to share an experience with us? And everyone shares that. And what happens the moment everyone vents out? Absolutely. Now they are on a plane, on a platform at each level. Now, since their motivations or emotions are absolutely flushed out, now you can talk about the topic. And that's what is the, that case study also says about it. That's one of the best inputs that they can share about those meetings. The rest, everything is all fine, but they give ample amount of time for this venting out. And similarly, I think Hiren is also utilizing that.
Yeah.
One
of the retrospective KC we started now.
Yeah.
We had not even had not even set the stage, and then one of these senior tech lead.
Yeah.
So told me, oh Hiren, are we gonna talk 45 minutes in this retrospective? This was the worst sprint we had in a long time. And the moment he started, everybody else started chiming in. And I like to tell you that within 3 minutes, everybody settled. So then I just had to, listen, and then everybody say this was the worst sprint. We didn't have the proper requirements, and then the testers were there in their own world, and then they kept coming to me with all sorts of questions, and then it made things more crazy. So as a Vijay used, flushed out. When you flush out all those emotions, people that carried into the meeting, they are on a platform plane where everybody's in a same emotional state. I've just vented out. I have expressed my anger, frustration, or happiness, whatever. Now I have their attention. If they find good, it was a bad sprint to say. But friends, let us now talk about how we can avoid these things in future. How we can improve the things from this point onwards. So then you will see that they are engaging. They're willing to offer their suggestions and recommendations and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So if you want to just read about that, this is also mentioned in the book called The Lean Machine, how Harley Davidson drove top lean changes or something. That's a book.
Very
The
good.
Lean Machine. Yeah.
Thanks, Vijay. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So yeah,
Thank you. Thanks for wonderful updates.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good.
So
Thank you.
again, retrospective is not bereft of some of these common myths and misconceptions, right? And over the period of time, some of these myths have been busted, some of these misconceptions have been addressed. But nonetheless, as new and new organizations or organizations embarking on their journey of agile way of working, they often bump into these situations. And these are not again a very comprehensive list. There could be other such myths and misconceptions. What I have seen is, my most popular list, like where I've seen that my most popular is this, that meeting organizer leads the discussion. Now, what happens that this person, I see the picture here, others are simply happy to listen what this person is saying, and then they don't have anything to offer. That's where now we have to find out creative ways how we can seek solicit inputs from other team members as well. And this is also still not very well understood. That do we really need to? I often get this question: that do we need to document this? But I think it really helps. This is where I think your intent, your actionable learning comes into play. That unless when I say document, doesn't mean that you write paragraphs and all that. Document is simply means say that have an actionable plan, and you start the next meeting with the action items from the previous retrospective. So in the last retrospective, we had 3 action plans. 2 of them are already completed. One is still in progress. You can kind of show a dashboard or kind of a small report card. And this will tell the team that, yes, you have that intent, and they have this trust that whatever input that we are giving are acted upon. Right. So, but again, the misconception still remains, that meetings outcomes need not be documented. Sometimes also we see in the senior management, other stakeholders are invited, and the reason for that was that, okay, this is something for the team, by the team, of the team. They are going to talk about their issues. They're going to talk about what they were confronted with and why other stakeholders are. But then the other side of the coin is that unless these people come and hear what the teams have been facing with, they will be, if these stakeholders are important stakeholders who can influence the direction of the project. They need to know that what's really happening at the ground level, and then they can. But if the team members want to be discreet, and it's like there's another paradigm we talk about retrospective, that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So whatever that is being heard and talked and discussed inside the room during the retrospective stays within the room, doesn't go out. But then there are certain other things which need to be made visible and transparent to other stakeholders, right? Some of them that have a larger implications at the project level, at the organization level. Those things need to be really carried forward to the other stakeholders. Yes, the meeting gets boring over a period of time. So again, at regular intervals, you have to ensure that how we can keep that engagement levels high, and then people really look forward to coming to this meeting. And I switched to a totally different template, and I'm going to talk about that in a short while. That template really brought back the team in terms of their engagement and participation. So let's go ahead. So this is, and I'm very proud of my drawing here. This is what I drew using Microsoft Paint.
Nice.
So what we did is that we kind of created a timeline for the entire sprint, 2-week sprint, so that people could figure out, okay, what is something that really happened the first few days of the sprint, what really happened halfway through the sprint, and then what we were really doing when we were trying to conclude the sprint. And I use the metaphors like sunrise to moonrise. The day begins and the day ends. So instead of sunset, I use the metaphor called moonrise. So from sunrise to moonrise, from day one to the last day, and on the y-axis, your subjective inputs in terms of your feelings, emotions, or were you happy, not happy, we are really very happy, +5, absolutely unhappy, -5. In fact, it should be other way around, it should be -1 to -5. Sorry for this reverse name. What they will do after this, on this, when we draw this on the board for everyone, and then we will ask everyone to post it their stickies in this fashion. So when you are running the retrospective, actually you're running it in 5 steps or 5 phases, as we say. The first step obviously is setting the stage, opening, before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of gathering inputs from team members. We like to set the stage, everyone. And if any opening remarks have to be told by any team member, we start with that. Then we start gathering the data. So people start, putting all those sticky notes. Either they are not happy about it or they're really happy about it. You want to acknowledge about something. Now, what happens when these stickies are all posted? Then we need to gather and analyze the data. So we need to categorize. Often I use the principle of 3P. 3P stands for people, product, and process. So one category relate to like people, one category relate to process, and one category relate to the product. So here we're trying to categorize all the related stickies. Are these related to, let's say, processes? Are these related to tools or infrastructure, or related to people? Then we'll like to address all the relevant issues. See, not everything can be worked upon, or not everything will have the same level of impact. And in fact, we also try to assess, what is the impact, or what is the foreseeable impact of these issues on the team in the coming iterations. Let's say, for example, infrastructure issues have a big impact. It slows down the team, it reduces the productivity, and also impacts the quality. So we try to prioritize them over other issues. Typically, what we do at the end of this, when we analyze the data, we try to identify top 2 or top 3, and then make them into action plan. So when we are working with Microsoft AD or Confluence or Jira, what we do, we create new items, work items, form of user stories, and these will be categorized separately from the other typical user story that we have. We have a service class definition. So for retrospective action items, we'll attach a different tag or an indicator to tell that, okay, these are different work items, and we'll prioritize them along with other work items. And finally, at the end, then I have acknowledgement, appreciation, and close the retrospective. So this template was very well appreciated, received by the team members. They really liked, enjoyed. And after first meeting, I really did not have to facilitate any of the subsequent sessions. So either my tech lead or my test lead, or even the business analysts of the team, and they all were excited. They say, okay, next time, can you give me an opportunity to say? I said, fine, it's all yours. You can go ahead and you can, facilitate these meetings. And this was done initially on a whiteboard. And later we could not find an appropriate template. So we had a kind of a closer pattern on, because we were a Microsoft product, a company. So we switched to ADO, and we started using the retrospective template as an add-in on Azure DevOps, and try to mimic this same. And also we copied on other like Trello. We often used to use Trello. Same Trello, we made similar kind of boards where we could conduct this retrospective with other team members. Any comments, questions on this? If anyone has seen this template before?
No, actually, this is really elaborate.
And Margaret, this was found very exciting because and I was not able to from my gallery photos. I have actually taken the photos in my team room, people performing these retrospectives. So if I have able to go online and retrieve, I'll still sometime in the future I might like to share it with the community.
Yeah, this is actually fun, and
it was great fun. And along with this, we also did the dot voting. And along with the dot voting, we also had a Nico chart. Nico chart is about the smileys or happy faces, and neutral faces, and the sad. So we used to take those votes and then create a dashboard. Okay, from sprint 1 to sprint 10, overall, how is the team motivation? Is it staying same? Is it improving? Or there will be some odd events, odd incidents where either a sprint will be really too good or will be again, a kind of not so really disaster, but majority of the people would be unhappy. Various factors. Yeah, so I'm at the last slide, and the most important takeaway here is that if you can really follow these steps, if you follow these steps and try to conduct the retrospective, make it as a kind of a systems thinking approach. And this is where you can draw engagement, draw commitment from your team members. They will come prepared. They will express themselves. They'll be very vocal about the issues. And we have seen those kind of views expressed. Sometimes even harsh views have been expressed. But then again, we try to keep the things non-attributable. So we convert the subjective feedback inputs into objectives. So let's say one of the team member brought interesting. Say that on this particular user story, we are working, and there were 5 defects. Without explicitly stating the name, it actually became explicit that he was trying to point to a developer that because of you, these 5 bugs were introduced. Right now, this can create a problem. Can become a kind of a dysfunction for the team. So we converted this into an objective data. Fine for us. Can you give the root causes for this? So when we flip the question, then the whole topic change. Okay, instead of pointing it to a person or a developer in the team, the root cause went to, for example, it was inappropriately defined requirements, or this requirement was complex, so we did not have any senior developer on the team, so we had to assign this to a relatively inexperienced developer and all that. And then we'll say, fine, what way we can improve this going forward, right? So we'll try to identify and see that the appropriate complexity of the user stories is taken into consideration when the team members pick up this, or they are provided adequate support and direction by the senior members, because we don't want anyone to miss out on the learning, right? Always a complex thing goes to senior, and the less complex stuff goes to junior and all. So then you have to again here, Margaret, the thing is how your facilitator is able to convert those subjective inputs into objective data.
I'm thinking some organizations should keep like a dedicated professional retrospective person only, so that person can go around on the team, because it's hard for the Scrum Master to do everything, and then this is itself is a full-time job.
Full-time job, yes. So the Scrum Master's job is very under. Vijay will definitely tell you more on that.
Like, to do all this, you need 3 days, and plus you're running around, servant leader, and so like
So Agile Scrum Master, Agile coach, and servant leader really has to get a grip on this. So the Scrum Master has to have a really grip on not only the situation in the team, but also on the people. So he or she has to focus on, okay, what are the underlying currents? Sometimes they are unstated. These are like kind of like iceberg hidden under the beneath the surface. So, but a person who knows his or her team very well will be able to make out even the way the team members are expressing themselves, the way they are providing the inputs, he or she will be able to make out what's the real underlying issue that is being talked about.
Yeah.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed this session. This itself is a very vast topic. You can go on, describing this whole session. There are some good references I found. A fantastic book is there. Apart from what Vijay explained about the recent case study that he talked about, Lean Machine, I found this book really good. It's from Esther Derby and Diana Larson, with a foreword by Ken